In early summer, a new generation of young Ninja Ned arrives. They take their first steps within 20 minutes of being born and will stay in hiding for the first weeks of life. Africa's top predators are assembling for a very special event. Oh shit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 23 of the Paddy and the Yank podcast. Paddy, how you doing today?
I feel good!
I knew you felt good. Oh, man, 23. That's got me thinking about a couple things.
Like what?
Number one, Michael Jordan.
Why?
I loved him growing up.
Well, what does he have to do with number 23? His jersey was 23?
Shame
wore-
on this Irish
He wore a
lad.
23-inch size shoe. He had a 20-inch, 23-inch.
He had 23 inches, and he worked for every single inch. And also that.
Oh, wait. Michael Jordan. You
Yeah.
mean the guy that was good at putting the ball into the hole?
Yeah.
Better than the other guys. Like the other guys couldn't put the ball into the hole as good as
Are
he
you
could put the ball into the
disrespecting
hole.
Michael Jordan right now? Is that what's going on?
No. I'm just wondering, is he the guy that could throw the ball into the hole that the other guys couldn't throw the ball into
Wow,
the
are
hole?
you
So some guys are good at
all
throwing
NBA or ball?
NBA, is that what they call it? Like where you get the ball and the tall people are good at it because they can just drop it into the hole. Is that
Why don't
NBA?
you go ahead? You might as well just take it all the way and just get racist with it, huh?
What the fuck? I'm talking about that. Oh, NBA. What does that stand for? National
Ball
in the Hole League. or
Ball
something.
Hole
Yeah?
Association.
Oh, sorry. No.
It's actually BHA, Ball Hole Association.
I didn't know that's who you were talking about. Yeah.
Um,
No, there's a lot of talent though involved in that, like being tall and putting the ball into the hole. better than the other
Absolutely.
guys, yeah.
I couldn't make
It's
the
exciting.
team.
It's
I couldn't make the
exciting.
team. I did not make the cut, man. It got me thinking about that Jim Carrey movie too. That was
Number 23.
fucking awesome movie.
That was a very good
It
performance.
was a really good movie.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
Dark.
Yes, it was dark.
Jim Carrey does dark good.
Yeah, he's looking fucking old, man.
Well, he is getting old, right?
That would probably explain why he looks old.
Unless he's got the Benjamin Button syndrome.
He does look a little bit like Benjamin Button when he was a baby now. He just came out with a new special about Bob Saget on Netflix where
I've
he
seen it, but I
hosts
didn't
it.
watch it.
I was just like, damn, he looks fucking old. That's crazy. Some people just like they get a point and they just get really old really fast.
They just age visibly really fast, right?
Yeah, I think he did. I don't know how old he is. I'd be curious to know how old he is. He looks like he's like 70s.
I'd say Jim Carrey's in his 60s.
Yeah, probably.
Guess.
But I think he looks older than that.
Hang on, let me check it out.
Take your time.
All right.
Take your time. Wait on me. I got something special for you today.
Okay, if you had to give a guess on how old Jim Carrey is, how old would you say he is?
67.
He's exactly 60.
Exactly 60?
Exactly to this moment
Dude, he
that
looks like he's
Wikipedia has told.
He looks like he's like 75, man. His skin is fucked.
he's
Doesn't he? Hasn't he ever heard of collagen?
Well, Jim Carrey had like he had rubber face. He could make all different types of faces back in the day. Maybe that had something to do with it.
Maybe that causes his skin to get extra wrinkly,
Muscles in
extra fast.
Could be. You
That's
know what?
possible.
I got a small little rant here, very quickly off the bat.
Rant away.
So the last day I was doing a boxing lesson in Dam Park, right? And Dam Park, for anyone who doesn't know, is the biggest park in Taipei, right? I think it's the biggest park in Taipei. It's cool.
I would guess so.
It's got a lot of trees. It's got a big, massive lake area. They've got a lot of wild birds that fly in there. It's got one of those ball in the hole courts. Is that what you call them? For the tall people.
Cornhole?
Where the tall people drop the ball in the hole better than the other person that can drop the ball in the hole. Sorry, but I was there in that park anyways. And I was standing training a guy. Now you see all kinds of shit in this park. And a guy walked past with a fucking meerkat on a fucking leash. Now, a meerkat is one of those animals from Africa that stands up on its back legs.
Okay, yeah, I
and
was
looks
trying to
around
get a
at the
visual.
meerkat. I thought they were from Madagascar, but I think they're from the south of Africa, somewhere like that. And he had this thing on a fucking leash, man, and this thing was just like freaking out, like it. You could tell this was a stressed out animal. As soon as I seen it, I knew what it was. I knew it was a meerkat straight away. I was like, what the fuck? This motherfucker's got a meerkat that had to have been smuggled in here illegally. So that was probably an legally smuggled animal that would have been put probably in a bowl or a sock, wrapped in a sock, and smuggled into the country illegally to be sold. I think.
Did you fantasize about putting the owner of the meerkat into a sock?
I fantasized about going over and slapping the fat fuck across the face and taking the meerkat off him. Yeah, I did fantasize
put
about
some
that.
rocks in a sock and beat his ass with
like
it.
medieval Julian.
That's
So it pissed me off when I seen that. It's like, and he had a load of tattoos and he was fat. And a lot of the times, I've seen that quite a bit here in Taiwan. I seen a leopard cat in Dam Park. Somebody with a leopard cat. Now this guy was clearly, he was walking around, he just kept looking around, at every girl that passed by, or everyone that passed by was like, look at me with my leopard cat. Give me attention. Come over and go, oh my god, that's so amazing. That's so cool. You have an endangered animal as your pet, an endangered species as your pet. Whoa. Because I was training somebody this time and they went over to look at the cat and I was like, please don't pander to this fucking tool. You know what I mean? So it was the same thing with that meerkat yesterday. The guy was just there and he's kind of like, I have this for attention and to be different. I've got a meerkat on a fucking leash here that's freaking out, that doesn't want to be here. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's out of its fucking habitat.
I've seen dogs like that too in Taiwan, though. Just some old dude on a bicycle with a dog on a leash, and the dog is desperately trying to like get away, and he's like yelling at the dog and basically dragging the fucking dog
That's
down the
fucked
street.
up, man. So yeah, fuck anybody that's into the illegal trade of animals, and like there was a story back here, I think it was from 2020 or something like that, or 2014, and a woman got caught at the airport here trying to smuggle in meerkats and an array of other like wild exotic animals to sell here, and 3 or 4 of them were already dead. Like one of them put in a bowl, covered over, and they died on the flight. Like imagine the death that animal had, suffocated in a fucking bowl inside a suitcase. Like, do you know what I mean? So. And I've seen quite a few things. There's been other types of massive lizards that are native to Africa that I've seen here. People walking around with them on leashes, like trying to be cool and trying to be whatever.
You know what that
Go
is,
fuck
right?
yourselves.
You know what that is, right?
What?
That's a fad among the gangsters here. I used to.
Well, this guy was tatted up.
Yeah, I used to get tats done at the shop, and the owner of the tat shop had a toucan.
Right, there you go again.
I know. And so I started going to the tattoo exhibitions in Taiwan, which are super fun.
Really?
Super, super, super fun. It's like,
Cool.
in Taiwan, a lot of people don't really know how to have a lot of fun. I feel bad for even saying that, but like they just don't wow out how we wow out in the West.
Yeah.
And so I go to this tattoo exhibition, and it's like
Pretty wild.
pretty wild. I don't even know if I should go into detail, but kind of like strippers on stage taking drinks of whiskey and spitting it into the people in the crowd's mouths.
Okay, that definitely does not sound. That definitely does not sound like Taiwan.
Right. And so I had a lot of fun. But at these exhibitions, you see lots of gangsters.
Yeah.
And they're all walking around with exotic animals or like these pit bulls that are like, there's something wrong with these pit bulls. They're like too big. They're really short and they're really stout and they have like no personality. So I'm a pit bull lover and I'm wanting to play with all these pit bulls, but like they don't react. You're like, hello. You pet them and they just don't. And I'm like, man, I think they're fucking shooting these dogs up with steroids. I could be very, very wrong. But it just
very,
seemed,
very right as well.
It just seemed off. Something about these pit, like they looked massively strong, but were massively unreactive.
Really?
I'm like, what's the fun in having a dog?
If it doesn't do shit.
If it doesn't react to you, it doesn't lick you, it doesn't get excited to see you, like what's the point? That's like
You might as well have a rock as a pet. You might as well have a pet stone.
Yeah.
Or a pet cup or something
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anybody that's into the wild exotic animal trade, go fuck yourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anyone as well that keeps a bird in a cage. Here's something that rattles my feathers too. And I've had this instance
Ruffles
here.
your feathers and rattles your cage.
Ruffles my feathers and rattles my motherfucking cage. Is people that keep birds as pets in cages. Like there's a place here that used to be on the corner of where I used to live here in Taipei, and the guy had like a big cage and it had 2 birds inside it. And every time I walk past, these birds are just like gnawing, trying to get out of this fucking cage. And you'll always see a flock of little birds from the area that are free, and they're always like flying around the cage and standing on top of the cage. And it's like, oh man, that must really, really, really suck for those 2 birds in that cage with all these little free birds going, look at us, we're free, we can
That's
fly
like
around.
a couple of single guys making fun of a couple of married guys.
yeah. Look at us, we're free. Then with the ball and chain.
We're going out tonight and you can't.
Well, I can, but I just have to ask. not for permission, but I just have to run it by the wife first. Honey, I know it's only a Thursday, but John and the guys are going. So, anyways, so it got me thinking when I seen these birds in the cage, and it was like, that's so human to do that. It's so human to take a bird.
To exert your control, your power over something.
100%. What can't a human do? A human can't just get up right now off the ground and flap its arms and fly.
Well, it's in our DNA to dominate, right?
Well, fuck. What pleasure could you get out of taking the freedom away from like a bird, locking it in a cage, a tiny cage where it clearly doesn't want to fucking be?
But Paddy, can you blame us for doing that? Because you sound very judgmental. Like
on this I am, yeah.
Because I got a haircut like a month ago, and I told you like, oh, the place is really cool.
Yeah.
He had birds, and you're like, were they in cages? I was like, yeah, and you're like, fuck him. But
yeah, sorry.
Before the podcast, we were kind of talking about men and women and our biological needs, requirements, and drives.
Yeah.
And you really can't blame us for our scientific. Goddamn, I'm trying to sound smart, and I'm doing a bad job. You can't really blame or judge or shame us for what we want, right?
Well, of course, look, but I don't like to pander to that, and I don't respect that, and I don't like any part of that, keeping a bird in a cage or having some kind of exotic animal to be like, hey, look at me, I'm making this animal feel miserable and terrible, but hey, I'm getting attention from all these girls, and I feel cool, and I feel like I'm different. It's like, I hate that shit. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? I'm not... Yeah. Maybe they're a sound person and they're cool and they just haven't thought about it like that, and they're not aware of these situations, and they're not like, oh, I'm actually causing great harm to this animal psychologically, like, and this animal is very unhappy. Maybe they don't realize that. They're just overcome with the desire to be fucking wanted and feel different.
That's the thing. We that's the vegan argument, right? We have enough consciousness to choose not to eat meat, as to where our ancestors didn't. Just like we have enough consciousness to choose whether or not to cage a bird.
Yeah.
But then the bottom line is that if it's a caged bird, it's going to be caged regardless of who is caging it. It's going to be caged like a married man. Here in a cage. The ring of the cage. I'd rather go fight in a cage.
Yeah. Fuck. But yeah, so that's it. That's my rant on that. I just, maybe they're not, they don't have those thoughts on it, but I'm an animal lover, and, so yeah, I'm not cool with that.
Respect. Respect.
I'm not a fucking vegan, by the way, either.
No.
I love me a good steak.
Me too. It's a good diet, but I don't do it. Dope. Well, let's see. We got a lot of things we want to do here today.
You got a poem. I heard you have a poem.
I got a few of them.
Okay, let's hear some of your poems. Yeah.
Actually, I guess it's pretty relevant to what we were just talking about. All right. This first one is called "Is She?" Not like the Japanese MMA fighter. Is she gay? This has nothing to do with is she gay.
Where does she fight? In one championship or UFC?
UFC.
Oh, she's a UFC fighter.
Yeah, her name's Is She Gay? Okay, cool. Anyway, this is called Is She? If she's a G, we are meant to be. That is the only question that has the potential to arrest or bring out a confession. Are me and her meant to be? Am I happy now? Will I ever release my ego enough to be the hero I truly am? Will I be able to see? Will I be able to see the truth that lurks beneath the surface on the sea, hiding while at the same time fighting? Fighting to be heard, fighting to be believed, begging for a chance to breathe and speak. It's actually only me that can set it free, but the walls that I need to climb are buried in fear and deep in my mind. I want to hear, but it's possible I might run out of time. Peace onto you. Use the time to find yours, and hopefully I'll be able to find mine in time. I started running out of breath at the end.
That was more like a fucking rap or a speech or something.
I like to rap, so I'm getting back into the rap game, and that was like what I might potentially turn into a song. You want to hear another one?
Give it to me.
Okay, this one's called Inevitable Reality.
Let's have it.
You are dead.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's fucking brilliant. That's brilliant.
That's not it.
All right. What? That should be it.
All right,
you kidding me?
I got another one. This is called the sequel. All right. Uncertainty runs deep in our veins, unsure of whether or not the pain is showing us how to soak up the rain. Are we to be maimed or go insane? Life is certain, we are sure. We are sure about what we think we want and know. We think we know what it is to create the perfect home. We think we know what we need. We can feel it oh so deep. It must be true. It must be real. Otherwise, we'd be a fool trying to steal the poor man's food. We think we know what we need. We even preach to others the truth of the me we see and project. Our words are God. God is reality. With lies we rot, for fear that they may see our most feared fatality.
The Yank is not an American extremist in any way, shape, or form. He's a sane individual, I like to think. I'm only joking. That's good, yeah. So yeah, anyways, that's our little intro over for today. At the end of last week's podcast, you heard a song by a female Irish artist called Michelle Antonia. You can find her on Spotify. That last tune, I think, was called Amsterdam Nights. I fucking love that piano.
Amsterdam Nights.
That piano breakdown in it. Where do you hear that piano breakdown in that fucking song?
Nice.
It hits me every time.
Dope.
Stick around for the end of the podcast if you want to hear some original music. Today we're going to play a song by The Outfit, another Irish duo, I guess they are. Right,
only two people?
Yeah, it's only two people, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But these are demos as well. They
Dope.
told me they're only demos. All right, let's get into it. Today's topic is what?
Bank robberies and heists.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Bank robberies and heists.
That sounds juicy.
Yeah, and there's like lots of different ways you can look this up, like biggest ones of all time, most famous ones, most famous robbers, most famous robberies. What's the difference between a robbery and a heist? There's just so many different directions you can take this. So I'm curious what direction you took it. Where did you take this?
Well, I took it right to the top.
Where'd you take my baby? Give me my baby back.
It puts the lotion in the basket. So when you told me about this, the first thing I thought was of an Irish heist, bank robbery that happened in the north of Ireland, in Northern Ireland. I had to do a little bit of research on this again. I mean, when it happened, I remember when it happened. It was all over the fucking TV, like, worldwide. So let me read you. This was the Northern bank robbery in Belfast. Belfast, eh?
Juicy already.
Yeah. So on the 20th of December, 2004, the headquarters of the Northern Bank in Belfast City was robbed, and an amount totaling £26.5 million sterling was taken. And this is considered to be Ireland's most audacious bank robbery ever.
What does sterling mean?
Sterling
in
is
that
British
context?
British pounds.
Oh.
And the British pounds back then was stronger than the euro, stronger than the American dollar, one of the strongest currencies. Like, so 26.5 million British sterling pounds in cash. Now, it's obvious from the police reports that the gang responsible for carrying out both the Tiger-style kidnappings, which I'll get into in a minute,
Dope.
and the robbery itself had been planned for months prior to them actually carrying out this. So the gang that were involved in this, they were very, very well organised, extremely disciplined, and it was very, very well thought out and planned out. So I found this article on a site called Meanwhile in Ireland, so I'll give them a shout out for this article. Right, so I'll read from the article.
We're supposed to do that?
Well, I'm gonna. I don't know. All right, so let's see what they're going to say. And I remember when this happened. And
That's great. Yeah, 2004. That's when I graduated high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Barely.
So junior bank official Christopher Ward, he was at home watching television with his parents and his girlfriend when gunmen broke into his house and threatened his family. They took Ward. Ward was then driven to the home of the bank's senior official, Kevin McCullen, while his family remained hostage. So they went into this guy's house, held his family hostage, and then brought him to a higher up in the bank, to his house. McMullen's wife was taken from her home to an unknown location and kept at gunpoint. So they took the bank official's wife and brought her to a location and held her there at gunpoint, right?
Good idea.
This is tiger kidnapping. This is tiger kidnapping 101. Both bank officials were given mobile phones by the robbers and told to go to work the following morning as normal.
Oh,
this is
wow.
movie shit. I can't believe they never made a movie about this. So during the course of the day, gang members kept in touch with both McMullen and Ward via the mobile phones. At lunchtime, Ward was ordered to remove a sum of money, thought to be around £1 million, £1 million, and carry it to a nearby bus stop in Queen Street, where he handed it over to one of the crooks or the robbers. This act was seen to have been a test run for what was to follow. Man, these guys are very fucking organised, huh?
Fuck yeah.
This is very well thought out. So far they've taken one guy's family, held him in the house hostage. He was one of the officials in the bank. Then they drove him to the other higher up official guy in the bank, and they kidnapped his wife, brought her to a place at gunpoint, gave both these guys mobile phones, said, keep these phones on, we're going to keep in contact with you, do a trial run, take £1 million out of the bank, bring it across the road to us. Meanwhile, these guys are going to do whatever they're told, because It's like, you don't, we've got your wife at gunpoint, we're going to kill her. If you don't, we've got your family here, we're going to kill them. So these guys are driven to do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a lot like when you watch all these bank robbery movies, it always seems like it's like the same story every time. There's just ex military, and they're just going in like extra professional, and then they all die in the end.
Right.
Every time. It's like the same fucking story every time.
Let's see what happens here in real life. So, later that afternoon, acting under instructions from the gang, McMullen informed his staff that as it was nearing Christmas, they could finish work and leave early. What a great boss. This left only him and Ward, along with 2 security guys, in the bank. So he sent all the staff home. Oh, it's Christmas is coming up, go home early.
Wow.
And him and Ward, whose family were also held hostage, were left in the bank with 2 security guards. They told the security guys that they were arranging to get rid of some rubbish. Garbage for you American listeners. Ward and McMullen proceeded to load crates of banknotes onto trolleys. They covered them with some broken furniture, and using the bank's internal lift, they carried them to the loading bay at street level, where they were met by members of the gang who, after loading the cash, drove away. So they just basically filled all these garbage bags full of cash, wheeled them out, gave it to these boys in the back of the van, and these boys drove off. So sometime later, the gang returned, and the same procedure was carried out.
Oh my god!
So they were doing runs. They were doing
and is this in like over a 1-day period or like?
Yeah, the day before they kidnapped the people's families, and then the second day these guys are doing this now in the bank.
Holy shit!
So sometime later the gang returned and the same procedure was carried out. Again, the gang drove away, leaving McMullen and Ward to tidy up and return home. On finding his family safe, Ward contacted the PSNI and the police action commenced. So the PSNI, I think, is the Police Service of Northern Ireland. I think that's what it stands for. Then McMullen's wife was released a short time later. So they released his wife then a bit later. Right. So despite years of investigation by police forces, both north and south of the border, and while some convictions for money laundering have taken place and a small amount of the cash recovered, no successful prosecutions have ever taken place, and the gang is still at large.
Damn, that's awesome.
Now instantly, when we heard all this, we instantly thought the IRA or some kind of paramilitary group from Northern Ireland, because how well organised it was and how to the T it was carried out. At home, I remember this when this was on TV. Everyone's going, it was the fucking Raz, what we call the IRA.
Raz.
Yeah, the Ra.
The Ra.
Ooh, up the Ra. I say, ooh, up the Ra. So police and political figures both in the north and south have openly alleged that the robbery was carried out by the IRA. But this has always been denied by Sinn Féin, because Sinn Féin is not we're not part of a paramilitary group. Sinn Féin is a political party. We do not recommend the actions of taking up arms. So that was an impression of someone.
That was an impression of who?
I'll leave that to my listeners.
Okay, I have no clue.
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest bank robberies in Ireland. They got away with £26.5 million sterling. Never got caught.
Wow.
That was carried out like
£26.5 million
pounds back in 2004.
2004. It's kind of like a US dollar, but more.
Double that probably. In US.
Double that.
Back
really?
then, I'd say almost double it.
26. Wow. That's still nothing compared to the biggest of all time.
Let's hear it.
Did you find the biggest robberies of all time?
I just, when you said we're going to do robberies, I just instantly thought of this robbery and said, right, I'm going to do a bit of research.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't really have too much off the top of my head. I kind of had to look it up a little bit. But it was pretty interesting. The biggest robbery. Can you guess?
Okay, if I would, is this bank robbery or what?
Let me get it pulled up here. Yes, it's called a bank robbery, and this is the biggest bank robbery of all time.
Okay, if I'm going to guess, one of them was the Lufthansa heist in New York, which was featured in the movie Goodfellas, but I don't think it's that one. The other one was and actually a guy who was in the IRA before. He went to America and he ended up robbing the Brinks for millions of dollars as well. So I don't know.
Not even close.
Hit me with it.
Over $920 million.
Almost $1 billion.
Yeah. This other website said it was about $1 billion. The Central Bank of Iraq.
Robbed by the American Army.
This is in Baghdad. It was the biggest bank heist in history. The mastermind was none other than the Iraqi dictator, Saddam Hussein.
What?
Yeah. He, one day before the Iraq War in 2003, this was around the same time, he sent 3 large trucks to the central bank, and he sent his son as well. His son had a handwritten note asking to withdraw about $1 million and keep it from the enemy hands. They loaded the money into a van and drove off. Most of the cash was recovered.
1 million, you said there? Or
1 billion, I'm sorry.
1 billion.
Most of the cash was recovered in raids, but it didn't end. Tasked with counting the money, American soldiers took hundreds of thousands of the dollars for themselves and their families. 35 of these soldiers were caught.
Oh, shit. So when the Americans invaded Iraq for their oil and gold with the premise that they were going after Saddam Hussein. Sorry, what did I just say there? I mean, yeah.
Right.
So when they were going over there to, like, liberate people.
So I think he sent his son to rob the bank so that the U.S. soldiers wouldn't take the money when they invaded, because they invaded, like, very shortly after he did it. But then the Americans took it anyway, and then they tried to keep it.
Fucking of course they did. I mean, okay, you're over there in a war-torn country, and like you come across fucking like stacks and stacks of cash. I'm gonna pocket some of that cash for sure.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, I hate saying it, but like in World War II, when the Americans uncovered all the gold, like all the art, all the fucking the Nazi gold, man, you're talking tons. Like there was caverns under the ground that were fucking high to the ceiling, fucking meters and meters and meters of gold that the Nazis had taken from all over Europe. Paintings, everything like that. You're telling me that
maybe that's the biggest
pocket some of that
heist.
Well, that wasn't okay. What defines a heist? Because I mean, the Nazis just went. They plundered. Okay, they plundered. A heist is, let's say, a heist is like a specific job. One job. We're gonna go in here and we're gonna rob this bank. We're gonna go in here and we're gonna rob this art gallery of all this fucking, you know.
I was referring more to like the U.S. What soldiers? Oh my goodness! So the Nazis had all this shit. Who invaded? We should know this from the Tattooist of Auschwitz, right?
What do you want to know?
Who invaded Germany and shut down the Nazis?
The Russians came from the north, I think, and the Americans came from the other side. So
that's right, because the Russians took Silka, right? And sent her to the Gulag.
Yes, it was the Americans and it was the Russians. And they backed Hitler up into Berlin. I'm not going to give a big history lesson in World War II, but they backed Hitler into Berlin, so it was inevitable, yeah, and then supposedly he shot himself in the Führer bunker, which is still buried under the ground in Berlin today.
Really?
Yep.
The Hitler's buried. The Hitler.
No, they supposedly the Russians took his body and burnt it. His skull they claim his skull still exists, and they've done tests on his skull, because a lot of people thought that Hitler didn't actually kill himself and that he fled to South America, and that Hitler, because a lot of top-ranking Nazis made it out of Germany and made it to South America. Like there's in places like Argentina, I think, and some places in Brazil, there's entire German villages.
Really?
Entire German villages where all they speak is German and all the architecture is German, and it's like German holidays, and it's like, what the fuck? And they're all descendants of Nazis, Nazi Germany.
That's fucking
I've
evil,
watched a lot of
man.
documentaries on that, man. It's crazy. So they thought that Hitler had also made it out, because a lot of the top ranking, shot callers made it out of Germany. Fuck all of them really were brought to justice. You know what I mean? And yeah, so that's pretty interesting, that. So they thought Hitler, but then they done DNA testing, I think, on the skull, or it was the teeth. Hitler was a vegetarian, you know.
You've got to be kidding me.
And an animal lover. And a great painter.
I know about the painting.
Yeah.
I know about the painting. He was vegan? Vegetarian?
Vegetarian. Hitler was a vegetarian,
What?
yeah. Yeah, so there was something to do with his teeth.
My.
Something to do with Hitler's teeth. That was a way that they were able to identify him, to do with his teeth, and the fact that he had was it codeine splotches or whatever it was on his teeth, that from not eating meat throughout his life or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so weird. I want to elaborate, but I don't even know what direction to take it. Just
yeah, so that Führer bunker's still buried. There's a lot of history in Germany, man. I'd love to go to Germany, and check out some of those places.
Me too. I went and saw the killing fields in Cambodia, and that was that was a very intense experience.
That's mad.
Skull towers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's another day, I think.
Yeah, that is another day.
Second biggest bank robbery of all time. What do you think?
Man, I have no idea. I don't know.
Also Baghdad.
Really?
Yeah. I checked 282 million. I'm not even going to go into the details. Third biggest of all time. Italy.
The third biggest bank robbery of all time was in Italy.
97 million.
97. Give us some details on that one.
Okay, cool. It's called the Knightsbridge Security Deposit Robbery. Valerio Vice, who was already wanted for more than 50 armed robberies.
50 armed robberies.
He had already done 50.
I guess he was the main suspect then in this whole thing. It's like, the bank has just been robbed. Who could have done it? What about Sergio? Not the Sergio. He only have 48 the bank conviction robberies, but Pico, he has 50. It must be him.
Oh man, it's not a very interesting story.
Really?
He and his assistant walked into a bank, asked to rent a safety deposit box. When the men were shown to the vault, they pulled out guns, overpowered the bank managers and guards, put a close sign on the door, let in some friends, broke into as many safe deposit boxes as possible, and made off with millions in cash and valuables. They went to South America, but were eventually arrested when he returned to England to ship his Ferrari to his new home.
Fuck, imagine that.
Yeah.
So they made it out of there. So a lot of those guys made it out with the money.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I think that was just one dude and his assistant.
Really?
Right, Valerio Vitse.
I mean, I don't really have an issue with people robbing banks at all. As long as they don't hurt anybody, rob as many banks as you want.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like the story that you told. I'm like, wow, that was a very non-violent bank robbery.
Well, I'm sure
just
there
a
was
little kidnapping. A little kidnapping goes a long way.
I'm sure there was a lot of psychological repercussions from the families, that were held. But
I'm glad you brought that up. Like perhaps the Stockholm Syndrome. Do you know what that is?
That's a fucking great song by Muse.
Is it?
Oh man, that's an absolute rocking tune.
Well,
I'm gonna
take by your musical performance that you do not know what that means.
I've heard it before. It's a fucking Muse song. I know. Go for it.
So I did a little bit of digging around, and I discovered that the bank robberies started kind of as a result of in the U.S. at least, started as a result of the Great Depression. So the Great Depression was between 1929 to 1939, and that was a major fall in stock prices, right? And shortly after that was when we got people like Babyface Nelson and John Dillinger.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by these gangsters growing up when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Al
Capone.
Yeah.
Man.
I actually didn't go into them too much because I thought you would.
Well,
everybody knows the story, though, right? Of like Babyface Nelson and John Dillinger.
Well, they made that movie, Public Enemies, with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Good movie.
Babyface Nelson was played by an English actor from Liverpool.
I can't remember who played him.
Stephen Graham.
Maybe I do remember. He's got a chipped tooth or something, right?
I think so, yeah. He looks like a little pit bull. He looks like
yeah. I know
he also played Al Capone in the TV series Boardwalk Empire.
I never watched that.
I watched the first season. It was brilliant.
Really?
Then I moved away. Never seen it again. But yes, those gangsters back then, man. Also, think about trying to rob a bank today. It must be extremely difficult to rob a bank today. You've got security cameras everywhere. You have the ability to contact like anybody at any moment with a phone. I'm sure they've got all kinds of crazy high-tech security now in banks. Whereas back in the day, in my town that I grew up in the 90s, when I was a kid going to school, the bank in our town got robbed.
Wow.
And they robbed the bank in broad daylight well, this is a small town that I came from, like less than 1,000 people, so you can imagine. They robbed the bank, what would you call it? At rush hour. So when everybody was coming out of school. This car pulled up outside the bank. Now, the bank was an AIB bank. I think that means Allied Irish Bank. We have Bank of Ireland, Allied Irish Bank, AIB. They pulled up outside in a car. I think there was 3 or 4 of them. They ran into the bank, sawn off shotguns. I think it was Bowie knives they had as well, because students that went to my school that were in my class were walking home from school and seeing the robbery unfold. And they were looking in the windows. Supposedly, 1 or 2 of them were like, held at gunpoint or whatever like that until the guys got the money and got out of the bank. So when this was all going on, one kid ran down to the local shop. And he ran into the shop and he said, the bank uptown's been robbed. There's armed robberies, whatever that. And the guy behind the counter says something like, April Fools. Ha ha ha. Jeez, April Fools. Will you get out? Tough fuck, you little pup, yeah. He didn't call the cops. He didn't believe the kid. And because like, the bank's being fucking robbed. He's like, are you out there, tough fuck? Will you ever give you a clip behind the ear there? And so they got into the car, drove off, and never got caught.
Wow.
Never got caught.
Yeah.
No. So the bank in my town, my small town in Ireland, was robbed in the 90s. I can remember it clear as day.
You would think it's difficult today because of facial recognition and all that stuff. But then when COVID started, I was like, oh, that was one thing I thought about actually. I was like, oh, if we're wearing masks now, we just throw on a hat, some sunglasses with the mask, and boom, we're like can do whatever we want. Nobody will know.
Yeah, but can you just walk into a bank now and rob it like you could back
Somebody
in the day?
did very, very recently. I was on the FBI's website this morning.
Oh!
Yeah, and there's some dude has robbed like 11 banks on this one highway, and they're looking for him right now. And there's a picture of him, and he's wearing a hat and like a doctor, like we were just wearing a medical mask.
Where's this?
In the U.S. in the Northwest, and he's robbed. I can't even remember, but he's going around robbing banks like right now as we speak.
Man, the age of the old bank robber is coming to an end. I'd say he's one. He's might be one of the only ones.
Mohicans.
Yeah, last of the fucking Mohicans here, huh?
Yeah,
still going around robbing banks the old way, huh?
And there's some people in New Mexico too, some Hispanics or something robbing banks in New Mexico. I was really surprised. I searched like modern bank robberies, and actually there's a lot of people doing it. If you think about it, I bet bank robberies have gone up as a result of COVID.
You think so?
Nobody can go to work. Everybody can wear a mask, and if you're ignorant and you have a low IQ, let me. If you're a stupid little spit fuck, no. Well, people with
what?
People with lower IQs have higher confidence. They can get away with things, right?
People with lower IQs have higher confidence.
They've less fear, right? Like ignorance is bliss.
Oh, okay.
Like if you're more dumb, it's very easy to be more happy, and you can also probably be more confident. Like they'll never catch me.
But you know what as well? If you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough. If you get knocked down, you better get back up. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I know enough to know. If you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough. Thank you. That was Paddy and the Pole Dancers. Go for it. Sorry, every time you say something, it makes me think of a song.
I don't even fucking know.
Makes me think of a song.
That was everything I just said was totally irrelevant. People still rob banks. That's the bottom line.
But man, I'm surprised by that.
I was surprised too. Actually, I was like, I don't know if the feds are watching me or not now, but like I kept like searching. You know what I mean? Like the U.S. government's crazy, right? Yeah. And I did 3 separate searches, and each time I went straight to the FBI website.
Fuck.
So they might be onto me.
Man, it's the FBI that were after John Dillinger and all them back in the day as well.
Right.
It was the FBI, I think, that took all those guys out. They took Bonnie and Clyde out.
Yeah, John Dillinger.
He was shot in Chicago.
He tried to rob a bank and failed, and got sent to prison for 8.5 years. And then when he got released at the age of 30, that was when he joined a gang and started robbing banks. And public enemy number 1, as we know.
Yeah.
And he died a violent death on July 22nd, 1934, after being shot by federal authorities outside of a Chicago movie theater. I remember that in the movie.
Yeah, he went to watch a movie with some chick, and she set him up. And the FBI, they shot him, I think, in the back of the head, through the ear.
Yeah.
So he was fucked in the middle
Those
of the street.
movies, you always want him to get away, right? You're like,
I know.
Man, you got so far.
They always romanticize characters like that too. Like even Bonnie and Clyde. I've been fucking fascinated by all these things since I was a kid. Jesse James, Bonnie and Clyde, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. And when I was in America, I was driving across America there one time, and it was like everybody. There was a couple of us on this trip, and it was like, right, where do you want to go? And it's like everybody could write out a few places that they wanted to see on this trip, so it was fair on everybody. Mine was like Alcatraz and seeing Bonnie and Clyde's car, which is in a display in a place called Whiskey Pete's on the way into Vegas. On the way into Las Vegas, there's a casino called Whiskey Pete's. If you go in there, they've got the car that they were shot in with all the fucking bullet holes right there in front of you. They got the clothes that Clyde Barrow was wearing. They got Bonnie Parker's dress. They got guns. They got all the shit from the car. It's in this fucking thing, man. It was
wild.
Fascinating.
That's wild.
Fascinating. And all the blood all over Clyde Barrow's shirt.
No way.
He's a small man.
Can't be real.
This is all the stuff. This is the original Bonnie and Clyde car.
Wouldn't that be evidence?
You're talking about the fucking what? They're the 30s.
Yeah, because I think this was post Great Depression
Tupac,
as well.
Tupac's car that Tupac was shot in is up for auction still.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Bonnie and Clyde car is there, and it looks exactly like it's riddled with bullet holes. So I've been fascinated by this shit since.
Did you make it to Alcatraz?
You're fucking right, I made it
Really?
to Alcatraz. Fuck yeah.
Tell me about it a little bit.
Alcatraz was cool. We took the ferry from, I think it's called Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, and we got the ferry across there to Alcatraz, and on the way over there, there's this dude and he's telling you all about the island, and then when you land there, it's the same thing. You'd feel like you're like a prisoner that's being taken there, because you get off the ferry and you land there, and there's a guy and he stands up and he talks to you like, this is Alcatraz, and this is blah, and this is duh, and you're like, I felt like I was in the Shawshank Redemption or something like that. But went inside, got to see Al Capone's cell, got to see the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris. They were 3 people that tried to escape from Alcatraz. They were immortalized in the movie by Clint Eastwood called Escape from Alcatraz, where they made fake dummies in their beds. They cut holes in the walls in the back of their cells, and they made it out onto the roof and down into the water. And they even made life jackets and rafts. And they found, I think, bits of the raft or bits of life jackets washed up on some beach. Now, that's the most famous escape attempt from Alcatraz to this day. And only recently, in the last 10 years, a letter was received by the FBI saying, my name is, I think it was one of the Morris brothers, or sorry, one of the Anglin brothers, and it said, my name is whatever, John Anglin, and I made it out of Alcatraz, I survived, and I'm dying of cancer, and I want to just come forward and everything like that. And the FBI never done it. Never looked
that
into
makes me think of the movie The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage.
That's a big owl action movie. Fucking
good movie, man. Oh, I love that movie.
That's alright. I like the original, like these dudes that escaped, like, and they put the fucking fake heads. We've seen their cells and everything like that.
Was The Rock a remake of that?
No, The Rock. Okay,
that had nothing to do.
Alcatraz was called The Rock.
Right.
They called it The Rock because it was floating. You know, it was in the San Francisco Bay Area. Do you know something else that's crazy? So they don't really know if these guys ever made it. If they ever made it, they could have got taken by the tide. I mean, the San Francisco Bay Area there, like that, the water is very turbulent, it's very cold, and there's lots of great white sharks in that fucking water.
No shit.
Man, there's a video on YouTube of the ferry at Alcatraz port waiting for passengers, and someone just happens to be recording, or it comes off the security camera, and there's a seal swimming around, and next minute this massive great white just jumps out of the water and mauls this fucking seal in front of everybody, and there's blood everywhere in the water, and it's right there at the ferry port, right there.
My.
So these three boys that got into the water in the middle of the night, like, they wouldn't have been just battling the elements and the tides.
Oh, that's terrifying.
There's
man.
the fucking thoughts that
scared me 10 times more than Jenny Green Teeth.
Yeah,
like the idea of swimming and the potential of there being sharks in there, that terrifies me.
And it's nighttime, and they
oh my God.
they attack from the bottom. Sharks,
That's so scary.
Sharks, they circle you, and they see you floating, and they come up from the bottom. Sharks usually, a great white anyways, attacks from the
I'm
bottom.
gonna have nightmares tonight.
It's like that guy that got killed in Australia there. Remember I told you about him a couple months back? He got caught on camera. He got mauled and eaten by a great white shark.
Oh my God.
That was horrific. That was really, really horrific. You know, it's only a matter of time before more incidents like that get caught on camera now because we got camera phones. But that's that's for me as well. One of the most terrifying thoughts ever.
That scares me. Like I think it started with Jaws, but I think that's a big fear for me.
Because you know what it is?
Because you have no power.
You're helpless.
Yeah.
You're floating in that water. You're helpless.
Life is all about power, whether it's power over your mind, power over your body, the power that you develop and cultivate with your strength, or the power of putting a bird in a cage.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you have to do. I mean, that's why these people robbed banks, right? Was it really the literal money they wanted, or the power that came with the money that they wanted?
Yeah.
You know, it's what we associate with power. Yeah, and if you're swimming in the ocean, there's sharks around you, have zero power.
That's terrifying for me. I mean, I love sharks. I'm fascinated by sharks. Since I was a kid, the same thing. Very, very fascinated by sharks and wildlife in general. I fucking love it all. When I was in Australia, I paid, I think it was $400, me and my ex-girlfriend, and I was driving across the country. I was driving across Australia. I was camping for a month, so I was staying in the wild for a month and whatever like that. And there's a place in Australia, I think it's called something's Port. I don't remember what it is. It's in one of the southern tips, and you can go down there and you can cage dive with the great whites. And I was like, we're driving across the country. I don't mind detouring for 6 or 8 hours. I really don't care. Like, this is going to be class. So we went out in the boat. And we're gone all day. Like, this is something I've never seen a great white shark. Not only have I never seen one, I'm going to be getting into a cage and seeing one up close in the fucking water. We checked. You can check online the schedule for, you know, the sightings of the great white shark within the month. So, like, all the days before we went there, 2 great white sharks, 3 great white sharks, 4 great white sharks. They were all spotted.
Wow.
We went there that day and we were getting out there in the boat, and someone said, man, yesterday a seal swam around the cage and a great white mauled it while people were in the water. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be absolutely mental. Holy hell.
Big time.
All day on the boat, chumming the water, not one fucking shark turned up. Not one shark turned up. People were spewing left, right and centre from seasickness. We were coming back. There was a tiny little area to sit in. It was fucking pissing down rain. There was a wind blowing. It was like one of the worst days of my life. And I thought it was going to be the greatest day. But I was like, I'm going to get to... This is a childhood dream to just see a great white in the wild. You know what I mean? I'm all about seeing the animals in the wild, and not only that, but getting in the cage. And they didn't...
It's like an ayahuasca ceremony.
But that's nature. It's nature.
A shaman says if you show up really, really wanting and expecting self-actualization, ayahuasca will probably just give you nothing because you want it too bad.
Your expectations are so high then.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no sharks turned up, and it was horrible. But look, you know what? I was pissed off in the moment. I was disappointed, but that's nature. You can't. That's the excitement of that. Is you don't know. It's unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. You go to a zoo.
Exactly.
I don't like zoos, but whatever.
Yeah. You brought up the Shawshank Redemption a minute ago. Do you know where that was filmed?
Ohio.
Yeah.
In an old
Mansfield Prison.
Mansfield Prison.
I grew up right by there. Very, very close. Very, very
really?
close. Yeah. And they actually, like, every year, they would, like, for Halloween, they would make it like a haunted jail, and you could go inside. And then now, and today, you know what they use it for now?
No.
They use it for a rock concert venue, and they have, like, huge heavy metal concerts and shit.
So it's what's called Mansfield Prison.
Mansfield Prison or Mansfield Penitentiary.
In Ohio.
Yeah.
And that's where the Shawshank was filmed.
Yep.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yep.
Fuck.
Crazy, right?
That'd be such a cool place to hang out as a kid. Imagine that. Fucking hell.
I didn't hang out there as a kid. It was just very close by. I grew up like an hour away. Maybe.
Yeah. That's one of the greatest prison movies ever made.
It's a good
The
one.
Shawshank. It's one of those movies I wish I could see for the first time again.
Yeah.
I wish I could see it for the first time again.
I
Like Shutter
consistently
Island.
think about rewatching it for sure.
It was on TV here last week.
It's on Netflix.
I'm
man.
going to do a Morgan Freeman impersonation in
Right
a
now?
video. No, not right now. In a video one of the days for the YouTube channel, and I'm going to do a little speech out of Shawshank.
Dope. I got one more kidnapper, and she jumped out at me because she has the greatest birthday of all time.
Kidnapper or bank robber?
Jesus, what's wrong with me? I have one more baby kidnap and bank robber.
All right.
She jumped out. She's got a good birthday, February 20th. I'm a big fan. And she's got a good name. Can you guess it?
Her.
Patty.
Her name is Patty.
Patty Hearst. She's actually really famous. I've heard her names many times, and when I saw, just everything popped about her story. She's got a pretty interesting story. This is in 1974.
Okay.
So she was the daughter of a big honcho for a newspaper company, and she was at home, and these people showed up and kidnapped her. She was kidnapped from Berkeley.
Berkeley, is that California?
Yes, and she was at university, good girl, young girl, and the people that took her were part of a terrorist organization called the Symbionese Liberation Army. Wow. Yeah. The coolest thing is that today, she's an author and an actress.
But what happened to her? What, they kidnapped her and what?
Yeah, let me...
You've just missed out the whole story.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sitting here going, what the fuck did they do?
I need to jump around a little bit, so as I do this, just be patient. So she was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army, a.k.a. SLA. This was an American left-wing organization that was active between 1973 to 1975. Not very long.
Not for you.
They must not have been very successful. They called themselves a vanguard army.
Okay, what does that mean?
Glad you asked. All right, a vanguard army. This term came from Leninist revolutionaries. The Leninist revolutionary struggle involves a strategy where you're like class conscious. This is basically like communism. This is like a neo-communist party where you want to take power from the bourgeoisie and make everybody the same class.
So they're all commies.
Like Pol Pot, and Karl Marx, and Lenin.
Hitler. Kim Jong-il and fucking Putin.
Lenin was the first leader of the Bolsheviks, and he coined the term vanguard party and argued that you needed this to impel the proletariat to achieve a communist revolution. So it was a bunch of, this is kind of the time, the 1970s. That was when a lot of this communist socialist ideology was coming to like the newer, younger generation because they had already experimented with psychedelics, right? And now they're trying to come up with a new way to establish equality for all.
What did they do with this chick? They kidnapped her and
so
what?
they took Patty Hearst. So they thought she was had been kidnapped, but then a couple weeks after she'd been kidnapped, they caught her on camera helping her kidnappers rob a bank.
What?
Yeah. So she was eventually convicted of bank robbery on March 20th, 1976, and sentenced to a 35-year prison term. Right.
So Patty Hearst fucking faked her own kidnapping and was a member of this gang and helped them rob the bank, or what?
No, I think the truth is they really kidnapped her, but then she experienced Stockholm Syndrome. And so now we'll get into that. That is a psychological condition that occurs when hostages have positive feelings towards their captors.
Oh.
Yeah. So Stockholm Syndrome comes from Sweden because there was a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden in August 1973. 4 employees of a bank were held hostage in the bank's vault for 6 days. During the standoff, they bonded with their captors. The captives and the captors bonded, and one hostage was on the phone and said that she fully trusted her captors, but feared that she would die in a police assault on the building. So psychologists now have studied the syndrome and thought it was only like in kidnapping, but they now realize it can also be used to talk about domestic violence and to be talked about a whole wide array of situations. They said the bond is initially created when the captor threatens a captive's life and then chooses not to kill the captive. The captive's relief at the removal of the death threat is transposed into feelings of gratitude towards the captor for giving him or her life. So the victim's desire to survive trumps the urge to hate the person who created the situation.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
So you think that Paddy Hearst had Stockholm syndrome, and she ended up helping these guys rob a bank, and she got caught, and she got put to prison.
Yeah.
For 35 years.
No.
For 30 years.
No.
For 25 years. You said 30 fucking years. What are you talking about? What?
She was sent to jail, and although some people said she joined on her own volition, some people said it was Stockholm syndrome. She testified she had been raped and they threatened her life. So in 1976, she was convicted of the crime and sentenced to 35 years. But later, Jimmy Carter reduced her sentence to 7 years. And then Bill Clinton totally pardoned her.
Oh, I bet he did.
Totally pardoned her. And I'm pretty sure there's a famous song about her.
I bet Bill Clinton has pardoned plenty of women in the day. The dirty dog.
And the cool thing is now today, she's an author and an actress. This girl who was once accused of like bank robbery and sent to prison, got pardoned, released, became an author and an actress.
The American dream, baby! That's America, the greatest country in the world!
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I thought that was a wild little story.
Only in America.
I'm sure a lot of our knowers already know who Paddy Hearst is, because I think she's right up there with Babyface Nelson, John Dillinger.
So you're calling our listeners knowers now, huh? That's the name of them.
All the knowers.
All the knowers. If you listen to this podcast, you're now officially known as a knower.
Yeah, baby.
You know.
Yeah, so the biggest bank robbery of all time was Saddam Hussein, and then I just thought this Paddy Hearst story was kind of interesting.
I also remember when they caught Saddam Hussein in that hole. Do you remember they caught him like in a little hole in Afghanistan or in Iraq? That was all over the news again. Back then, that whole war was broadcast on TV.
I mix up the story of Pablo.
Oh, Escobar.
Oh, Pablo Escobar, Bin Laden, and Saddam Hussein, right?
I know
all three of these were like chased down when we were young, right?
Yeah.
And so I confused them.
The Saddam Hussein, that whole fucking Iraq war, man, was broadcast on the TV. It was like one of the first times war was live on TV.
You couldn't turn it off, right? Every channel.
Yeah, it's like, hey mom, what are you watching? I'm just watching the Iraq war. You know, I just seen fucking drone fucking blow up a load. It's like, what the fuck?
Fuck the NFL. We don't watch the NFL. We just watch war.
It's crazy. And you could watch the video of Saddam Hussein being hung on YouTube too.
Oh, they hung him.
They hung him, and someone recorded it, and it got leaked. And I remember watching that when I was younger.
Okay, I'm thinking of the Pablo Escobar thing then. It's like he's walking around on his phone.
Pablo Escobar died on the rooftop.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of in my head
shot.
right now.
They reckon he shot himself or whatever.
And then Bin Laden was hiding out in the mountains, right?
Supposedly, yeah.
Supposedly.
And, the Americans went in and got him.
Oh, Obama killed him, supposedly.
Yeah, they
right?
went in and got
all
him.
This
And they
supposedly.
buried him at sea or something. But who the fuck knows about all these things? You know, who really knows?
I bet Bin Laden was never even real. You never watched Iron Man 1, right?
I heard Bin Laden was friends with the fucking Bushes.
Yeah. Did you never watch Iron Man? Not even the first one?
I seen the first one. I thought the first one was decent.
Wasn't the first one? It was the first or second or third. One of them.
He was kept in a cave and he made Iron Man.
They created a fake Bin Laden, right? And he was actually like this, they used him and put him on the video, and he was really, really scary. But actually in real life, he was just like this little he had like a feminine voice, and he wasn't hard, and he wasn't a killer. They were literally just using him to make videos.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Who really knows? Some people do know. Some people do know. We don't know.
A very small percentage
know
the
truth. This fucking podcast knows either.
Yeah.
You know, that's life. You know,
that's why you're listening. Yeah. Because you're a knower. Yeah, but you're a knower of what you don't know.
And on that note, we're going to leave it right there today.
Sweet.
Thanks everyone for listening. Again, follow us on Instagram, Paddy and the Yank _podcast.
Check out YouTube, man.
Check out the
YouTube
YouTube
is
channel.
dope.
At the start of each YouTube podcast, we have a little video introduction. Well, I wouldn't say it's an introduction, it's just like a mad video at the start of each episode. So check them out. Like and subscribe. Help the podcast grow. Follow. Also, today we're going to leave you with another song by that Irish outfit called The Outfit. The Irish group called The Outfit. This tune is really chill. Alright, this is The Outfit.
Alright, later on.
Peace.